Hello fellow writers, my name's Laura and welcome to Learn to Writer, the channel where we talk about the mental challenges of being a writer. Today I wanted to talk to you about how your perception of certain genres might be affected by societal norms and societal expectations. Romance is one of the most polarizing genres in the literary world. It's insanely popular, it's insanely profitable, its readers are voracious, and its writers are very prolific. It's also looked down on as being dirty or trashy and accused of being very formulaic. But how can both of these things be true? Well, I introduced this channel for each video mentioning about how I'm basically talking about the mental aspects of being a writer, and a lot of that just comes down to mentality in general, how the brain works and all that kind of stuff. This video is going to very much skip over the writing part and get a little bit more into psychology in general. So how can both of these things be true about the romance genre? That is because readers of the romance genre tend to be women, and critics of the romance genre tend to be led by men. And society has trained men to hate women. Yeah, that got heavy really fast. Now, I'm speaking generally about the society in the United States because that's where I am. It's certainly not untrue in other societies. And I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of proving this. There is a big book called Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates that basically goes into this and explains it. I'm leaving that to her. I will link the book down below. But in a very small nutshell, society vehemently discourages men against doing anything or liking anything that is considered feminine. Crying, having emotions, anger does not count as an emotion according to men. Using makeup, caring about clothing, liking fruity drinks, the color pink, all that kind of stuff. These are undesirable. You know, you've heard men talk about how they don't like these certain things, right? As a result of that, basically, I'm pretty sure unconsciously, men come to then hate women because women do like those things and do possess those traits. Like a lot of men are so trained, you can't do anything feminine, you can't like anything feminine, that even seeing it in women, they still hate it, right? Because hate is hate. You can't necessarily compartmentalize that. And whether or not we like it, men are the top of the hierarchical society. They run most things. They are in most positions of power. The male opinion kind of ends up being society's opinion. And that basically means that if you're not careful, even as a woman, you can come to hate women because you're just hearing about women from a man's point of view, and they hate women, so... And I had this blind spot for a really, really long time. I looked at romance and I was like, oh yeah, that's just trashy and I would never write that because it's so stupid and it's like this, that, and the other thing, right? Until I actually met romance authors who, not surprisingly, have thought about this a lot and have discourse, that's like, these things are said, but this is why that's not true, because, they have to deal with that perception of what it is that they write all the time. And this also happened somewhere around the onset of my great awakening into the awareness of how hostile society basically is against women. It involves pumpkin spice, but that is a story for another time. So we're going to get back to, the romance industry in general. The romance industry and other woman-written genres that are considered to be predominantly written by women. That includes young adult fantasy, women's lit, romantasy, cozy mystery, and even fan fiction. I'm going to throw fan fiction in there as its own genre, because these are all things where they exist out there. They must be popular to a certain extent because they continue to exist, and yet there is this undercurrent of bias where it's like, oh, romance isn't real writing, or women's lit is just ridiculous drivel, or fan fiction is just dumb and like fantasy fulfillment. There's just this overwhelming negativity about these genres. And like I said with me in romance, it was just perpetuated by the fact that society thinks these things and says these things over and over about romance. And I've seen stories of women who read romance and then feel bad about liking romance. Like I said, this video is mostly to bring this up to your attention. There should be no reason that any genre is seen as lesser, right? There's no reason that any genre should be just considered bad in any way, shape, or form. If you don't like to read a particular genre, that's one thing. Like, I don't like thrillers. I don't like horror. But at the same time, I understand that there are people who do like it. They read it for a certain reason, and that doesn't mean that those books are bad or poorly written or the genre shouldn't exist. We've just gotten caught up in this. It's okay to hate it for whatever reason. Stories are escapism. Stories are empathy, they're knowledge, they're entertainment. Stories are people's souls in physical form. They can change people's lives. They can even just bring some joy. You know, escapism is really, really big right now. And especially right now, you know, we want to be choosing love and understanding. So I want you to kind of take a look at if there are any genres where you're like, I absolutely would never read that because you think lesser of it for some reason, right? I'm not interested in reading middle grade but that's because it's for a younger audience than I tend to find. But I've read middle grade before. Technically, I think the first Harry Potter book is considered middle grade. If we're still reading Harry Potter, I don't even know. But like, there's nothing wrong with middle grade, right? I just, in general, wouldn't read it. There are no genres in particular that are just bad because they exist, right? They're either for me or they're not for me. And so I want you to take a look at whether or not you've got any of those unconscious biases about a genre. Because in general, it's okay to not want to write or to write or to read that genre, but there's absolutely no reason to insult it. Be aware if you're not going to like something, like that those opinions are your own and you didn't just absorb those from society, right, and perpetuate them. You know, I will never say another bad thing about romance. Is it formulaic? Yes, it really is. But you know what? So are mysteries. Mysteries are ridiculously formulaic. So you can't really use that as, you know, a bad thing. Hopefully, you know, you'll be able to take a look at maybe some of your unconscious biases. Give romance a shot. If you don't like it, you don't like it, right? But don't not like it because somebody told you that you wouldn't like it or that it's bad or anything like that. Obviously, be aware of it in other places. I've got a big, long, like, soapbox thing about YA fantasy and romantasy, but again, that's going to be another video at a different time. If you like this video, go ahead and like this video. If you'd like to see more content, possibly more writing advice and not just psychology, but a little bit of both, go ahead and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.